Hey everybody, I'm the only thing between you and the bar, so I'm going to try and make this as entertaining as possible. I'm going to start off with a little video. Watch this for me. In theory.
Hi, I'm Jeff, an Eating with the Geek Squad. Today we're going to show you how to remove viruses and spyware from your computer. The best way to remove viruses and spyware, called malware.
That video is awesome when you can see it. It's amazing. It's a guy talking about malware. So, Geek Squad, in addition to that sort of weird video about viruses and spyware, has a YouTube channel with a couple of hundred other videos on it. All kinds, how to install Windows 8 and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was at a conference a few years ago, and Robert Stevens, who's the founder of Geek Squad, was the keynote, and somebody in the audience asked him a question. He was talking about these series of videos. They said, Robert, now, let me see if I can get this straight. Geek Squad is in the business of fixing stuff for money. He's like, yeah, that's more or less what we do. She's like, well, but yet you've got all these videos that show people how to fix stuff themselves. How does that make any business sense at all? And Stephen said, well, first of all, you got to understand, our best customers are the people who think they can fix it themselves. Which is absolutely true, right? That is me. I'm like, hey, hot water heater repair, and like $4,000 and 2 trips to the emergency room later, we're good to go, totally fixed. And he said, second of all, eventually everybody gets out of their depth, right? Eventually you can't do it yourself. And at that point, who are you going to call? Are you going to randomly dial up the yellow pages? Or are you going to call Geek Squad, whose videos you've been looking at for 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 minutes? Because Robert Stevens and Geek Squad understand a very important business principle, which is that the difference between helping and selling is just 2 letters. But those 2 letters make all the difference in modern business. Because if you sell something, you can create a customer today. But if you help someone, you can create a customer for life. And that's what we're going to talk about this evening. We are at a conference where we're talking a lot about content and content creation and marketing automation and feeding information to customers. But the reality is the content that will be effective is content that is truly and inherently useful. And I call that information a utility. Y-O-U-tility. And the definition of utility is simple. It's just this. It's marketing that is so useful, people would pay for it. Now, you're not going to actually make them pay for it. That would be bold. But it's so useful that if you ask them to, they actually would. Let me give you an example. Hilton Hotels has a program on Twitter called @HiltonSuggests. They started this a couple years ago as a trial program. They took 25 hotels across the United States, took a volunteer from each hotel. This wasn't a full-time job. It was in addition to their regular duties, and said, here's what we want you to do. We want you to listen on Twitter. Pay attention to what's being said on Twitter. And if you can find a way to help, just help. So that's what they did. Here's an example. @LTHouston says on Twitter, good places to eat near the Magnolia Hotel, downtown Dallas on Saturday. Hilton Suggests jumps into this conversation. Note that this wasn't addressed to Hilton. They just saw it. They were strategically eavesdropping, if you will. They saw this, they leapt into the conversation and said, hey, @LTHouston, Wild Salsa on Main or Campese's on Elm are awesome, both within walking distance of your hotel in Dallas. Enjoy. But here's the thing. The Magnolia Hotel is not a Hilton property. So now you have Hilton Hotels using staff time and staff resources to assist somebody that they know for a fact is not a customer. But eventually, this guy's going to be in a different city and need a hotel recommendation. And at that point, who's he going to think of first? Hilton because they helped him when he needed it. It's a utility. A couple days later, Melanie J., who was at Rockstar Extreme on Twitter, tweeted out, "Anybody know who's hiring in Orlando for professional positions at this time? Seems like it's at a standstill." Hilton jumps into that and says, "At Rockstar Extreme, check out orlandojobs.com for a comprehensive list." Now, I think what I would have said is, "Hey, Melanie, maybe if your Twitter handle wasn't at Rockstar Extreme, you would have some additional interviews. Maybe this is sending the wrong message." It's just one of many reasons I'm not in customer service. But now they're trying to help her find a job. And eventually, maybe she's going to get a job, and she's going to have disposable income, and she's going to want to travel, and she's going to need a hotel. And at that point, who is she going to think of first? Hilton, because they helped her when she needed help.